Over the weekend, Secretary Noem sent a memo to the Pentagon asking Secretary Hegseth to have and direct the military that's on the ground in LA to arrest and detain what she said were lawbreakers. Is the president okay with that? And under what authority would the members of the military be able to arrest people inside the United States?
I can't speak for a letter that came from the Department of Homeland Security. I can't speak for the president and what's currently happening on the ground now. And as you know, the president federalized the National Guard under U.S. Code 10, which he has the authority to do. And our United States Marines and the National Guardsmen and women who are on the ground right now are helping to create a peaceful environment for ICE and Border Patrol, who were being, again, hailed with rocks, who were being violently and viciously attacked. They needed reinforcements, and so our United States Marines who are on the ground are providing those reinforcements to ensure the environment is peaceful so that these raids and deportations can continue.
But he realizes they can't actually arrest people unless he invokes the Insurrection Act, which, I mean, seemingly was not something that was in Secretary Noem's memo, a clear distinction she did not make there.
Again, you're trying to conflate a letter that was sent to the Department of Homeland Security to the president's legal authority. The president understands the legal authority that he invoked, and that's the current situation right now.
So now it's impossible to tell what's legal and what's just something that feels like a law in Trump's head. Now they're patrolling the border with Marines under the pretext of maintaining peace because ICE and Border Patrol are afraid of migrants throwing rocks at children. Seriously? You're sending in Marines because they're throwing rocks? Is this the Mexican border or a Marvel movie? Make up your mind. Moreover, they've called in the National Guard under federal authority, but these soldiers have no arresting power because this is still, at least on paper, a country governed by the rule of law. There's no Insurrection Act, no explicit order, but there's an expectation of arrests on the ground. So what's going on now? Is Trump again enforcing the law as he sees fit? Remember, in 2020, he also wanted to call in the army to disperse protesters. The man never learns. The goal isn't peace. The goal is to intimidate, to suppress, to silence. Because in Trump's world, the law is only valid as long as it serves his purposes. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Thanks, Karoline. The president said yesterday that paid insurrectionists were behind or involved in the protests in Los Angeles. Does the White House have any more details about who they believe is paying these protesters?
The president spoke about this last night when he returned from Fort Bragg because, frankly, the president has a lot of common sense. And if you look at some of the imagery that we have received from the Department of Homeland Security and ICE and law enforcement who are on the ground, you will see boxes and boxes of very professionalized masks and rioting equipment being dropped off for these protesters. So it's a good question the president is raising, and one we are looking into, about who is funding these insurrectionists and these rioters and these protesters and these illegal criminals. And I have updates for you on the numbers, by the way. Since June 6th, there have been 330 illegal aliens that have been arrested as part of these riots in Los Angeles. 113 of those illegal aliens had prior criminal
yes. Classic Trump tactic. Come up with a conspiracy theory that is far from reality, then say, "We're looking into it right now," and never respond. Last night on the way back from Fort Bragg, you said common sense, which is what we call making things up among the people. Professional mask boxes, organized equipment. This guy still thinks every protest is a collaboration between George Soros and Antifa. We really still have a president who asks, who is financing these protesters? So he's calling people who buy masks in bulk from Amazon financially supported rioters. Do you laugh or cry? And of course, the conversation immediately turns to immigrants. If 330 people were arrested and 113 of them had prior criminal records, what about the others? Are they also illegal criminal rioters? This rhetoric, this hate speech, sounds familiar, doesn't it? Because he said the same thing in 2015. They're criminals, they're rapists, some of them might be good people. The cruelty is the point.
If the president does end up deploying any National Guard members, perhaps Marines, to blue states, would he be in contact with the governors prior to this? Would it be necessary?
Well, President Trump was in contact with Governor Gavin Newsom despite some of the claims he's made in the last couple of days. The president called the governor on Friday evening and told him to let law enforcement in California do their jobs. And the Los Angeles Police Department, by the way, are fantastic people. They are trying to do the work that they've so bravely signed up to do, to enforce the law. But they have been kneecapped by incompetent Democrat policies and Democrat politicians who do not allow their local law enforcement to correspond and coordinate with federal immigration authorities. And so the president gave Gavin Newsom a warning and said, get it together. 24 hours later, we saw more images like this.
That's exactly why we're angry, isn't it? Because it's not Trump, it's his press secretary Leavitt who comes out and says the president warned Newsom. Warned him? Is this a mafia movie? Can there be a presidential system with the mindset of Gavin, either you take care of this or I will? And of course, there's that classic refrain. Democrats aren't letting the police do their job, they're chaining up law enforcement. Give me a break. Declaring the LAPD brave and then threatening the state's elected leader is not democratic governance, it's outright federal intimidation. Look, these guys want to use federal power as a stick against the states, not just against immigrants, but against mayors, governors, even voters. And the real issue is this. These aren't news briefings anymore. They're a fear-mongering theater of public relations, a display of power. And these people are worshiping power, not the law.
On just everything sort of we've seen so far with the president's response to the LA protests. There is criticism that seems to suggest that the president responded the way he did because it was a deliberate, calculated attempt to sort of shift focus away from his feud with Musk. How would you respond to that?
The president responded to the LA riots, condemning the violence
from Musk.
It's an incredibly disingenuous attack. The president saw images of Border Patrol and ICE agents being hailed with rocks and Molotov cocktails. He saw vehicles being burned to the ground with illegal aliens flying foreign flags, and that's what prompted the president to have this response that has clearly worked, because last night in Los Angeles you didn't see many of those images. And I would add the governor and the mayor need to actually do more. I know Gavin Newsom had a big address to the nation last night. I guess he thought that's what it was for maybe his future political ambitions, but he spoke a lot of words. We haven't seen action. California has been a mess for years because of the incompetence of Gavin Newsom, so the president was responding to that only. Caitlin.
The journalist who asked the question said, was Trump's harsh response to the LA protests an attempt to distract from his personal feud with Musk? And Leavitt's response? Of course, that's a very malicious accusation. Excuse me, but malicious? Or is it just the ordinary observation of a public accustomed to Trump using every crisis to boost his personal ego? This man has no policy, no strategy. His reactions are always about getting on stage. He's not talking to the protesters, he's talking to the camera. And again, classic Trump imagery. Molotov cocktails, foreign flags, burning cars. Sound familiar? Because he keeps using the same script. There's chaos, I'll bring order. Fear, control, optics. And then he brings it back to Newsom. He talked big, but did nothing. Wait a minute. What has this man done in crisis situations over the years besides offer useless thoughts and prayers? Gavin at least speaks to his people. Trump speaks to his own mirror.
Being blown during these protests. There are protest activities being organized for this weekend. Part of it are Democrats saying they want to reclaim the American flag. It's also being titled No King's Day. Does the president see himself as a king, and does the White House expect to see American flags being flown during these protests this weekend?
The president views himself as the president of the United States of America. This is a constitutional republic, and we want to see all of our citizens be proud of the country in which they are given the privilege and the blessing to live. And I think that those images of foreign flags being waved with by illegal criminals and by violent rioters in the face of cars blowing up and of flames in the city. I have photos of that here to show you. With this violence and destruction that occurred is an image that Governor Gavin Newsom owns. This is his city, and President Trump saw these images, and he said that is not going to be accepted or tolerated, and hence why he deployed the National Guard and United States Marines who have helped to quell that violence.
Look, look, look. Now it's the flag's turn. Democrats want to take back the American flag. Well, whose hands was it in anyway? Did Trump steal it? Seriously, we need to ask, who has been claiming ownership of the American flag in recent years? Who attacked the Capitol building with a flag? who chanted "Back the Blue" on January 6th and then beat up the police. The irony is doing cartwheels. And no, the No King's Day slogan isn't just an insult to Trump personally, it's a response to his authoritarian ambitions. Because the people now know this man thinks he's a king, not a president. He only cares about the Constitution as long as it serves him. Leavitt says, this is a constitutional republic, but that's laughable. Because what he's saying right now is no different from a regime's press release using military force against civilian protesters. And this country's flag exists not to suppress people's right to protest, but to protect that right. But for Trump, the flag is just a stage prop, just like religion, just like the military, just like the Constitution. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.